Hey guys, today we are in our 2021 Mazda CX-30 Premium Front Wheel Drive. And I wanted to do a little bit of a snow driving video, show you guys how the front wheel drive CX-30 handles in the winter, in the snow, on winter tires. We have Continental VikingContact tires in 225/55 R18s. Slightly wider than stock width, gives us a little bit taller sidewall. I think they look pretty beefy. Overall, this has been a fantastic winter car. It's pretty lightweight. The traction control system is quite liberal, even with everything on. And I don't know, for a front-wheel drive car, I think this is a pretty fun vehicle to drive in the snow. You can turn traction control off. Stability still has a little bit of intervention when you get lift-off oversteer, but it actually has some kind of fun and entertaining handling characteristics. We've got an empty parking lot. You know what we're gonna do here. Then we'll head out onto the roads and get some driving impressions on this thing. There's a few reasons why we decided to go with the front-wheel drive Mazda CX-30 as opposed to the all-wheel drive car. It has a 13.5 gallon fuel tank instead of a 12.7 gallon fuel tank in the all-wheel drive, and it's about 154 pounds lighter than the all-wheel drive car. And I think it's just nice to have a more mechanically simple vehicle. When we bought this, we planned on owning it for a very long time. And I wanted something that was a little bit more fuel efficient. This averages about 28 miles to the gallon on average compared to the all-wheel drive's 26 miles to the gallon. And with that tiny fuel tank without a lot of fuel range, I think that'll add up big time over our ownership experience. Now, we're actually thinking about selling this soon because we have started a family and the back seat is just a little bit tight for our child seat situation. So might be getting into something a little bit larger, but before we get rid of this, I wanted to do a winter driving video. So one of the best things about the front wheel drive Mazda CX-30 is you can do reverse donut. So we're gonna turn traction control off. It's just a one press button. And into reverse, here we go. There we go. A little bit of hooning in the front wheel drive CX-30. So let's show you guys what the traction control system does while we're in a relatively safe and controlled environment. So this is everything on, a little bit of acceleration. It's giving us quite a bit of wheel spin, but the traction control isn't necessarily grabbing or making a lot of noise. It's working completely in the background. If I go in a little bit too hot into a corner, it'll break that passenger rear tire and get us rotated around, which is pretty nice. ABS doesn't seem to kick in too early. Let's see how it does up a hill. So we're accelerating lightly. Traction control light is flashing. Seems like it's giving us a pretty good bit of wheel spin. Of course, this is an open front differential, so it's not gonna lock up those front wheels. So we're gonna get a little bit of side-to-side motion depending on which way the road is kind of tilting. Get a little bit of intervention from stability control when you really get out of sorts. Boy, that was quite a perfect front-wheel drive donut there. Let's do one more. That was pretty fun. All right, we'll get some speed up for this one. We'll make this a J turn. That was with traction control on. This is a fun car. I do miss hooning around in a front-wheel drive car in the winter. It's too bad this doesn't have a handbrake. All right, so we'll turn traction control. I don't know, you know what? We'll leave traction control off for just a second. See how it does with all the nannies off, so to speak. You can hear we're still getting just a little bit of intervention from stability control. But this chassis actually handles quite well in the snow. Get a little bit of lift off oversteer, which is fun. Chuck it in, rear end comes around. As soon as you counter steer though, you feel just a touch of stability control, braking those front wheels to get us straightened out. We'll turn traction control back on. I think one of my favorite things about this car is how liberal and unintrusive this traction control system is. Mazda did a really nice job tuning it, and it's nice to not have to really notice a traction control system. Pretty good braking performance there. Also, these Continental VikingContact tires have a really nice amount of grip in the snow. This is one of the more impressive winter tires that I've driven on recently, and I really like it for Michigan winters because we haven't been getting a lot of snow, and you don't really sacrifice much in terms of performance with dry and wet weather driving, but it still handles great in snowy conditions and on the ice. And it's a really nice all-around winter tire without a lot of compromises. It seems to ride well. It's pretty quiet too, much quieter than the Blizzaks we used to have on this car. There maybe isn't as much overall ice traction, but honestly, it's kind of hard to tell the difference. A winter tire is usually going to perform pretty well. I like the tread compound. It looks pretty aggressive. They seem to be priced pretty well too. This is primarily my wife's car. She's never really had vehicles with winter tires on them. She's always kind of run all seasons. And she's become a pretty confident snow driver. And before, she used to complain about, oh gosh, the roads were really bad going to work. And ever since I got her this Mazda CX-30, I've had winter tires on it in the wintertime. And she says, I don't know why everyone's going so slow. The roads are fine. And it's terrible out. So winter tires do make a pretty big difference. I think it's important to have them on any vehicle as long as you get a good amount of snow in the wintertime. And whether it's front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. One thing I do like about front-wheel drive cars, though, is that you can get a pretty good idea of the grip level just by giving it a bootful and flooring it and seeing if your traction control light is kicking on, if you're getting any wheel spin. And that's a much better way of gauging grip on the surface than slamming on your brakes and seeing how quickly ABS kicks in, because that could startle some drivers behind you, maybe cause some panic, a spin out, a crash, who knows. But I kind of grew up driving front-wheel drive cars in the wintertime, and I would always just floor it to see how much grip was available, whether it was icy, whether it was a little bit too snowy, and that was my gauge for figuring out the road conditions. And that's actually one of my favorite things about front-wheel drive cars in the wintertime. You can see we've got someone up here, no snow tires, driving very conservatively. You know what, we're actually going to go this way and make a bit of a pass. Boy, the roads are pretty bad today. Another thing I like about winter tires too are they seem to be very predictable to drive on. There doesn't seem to be a huge differential in traction between cleared pavement that's a little bit snowy and full-on snowy road areas. And in an all-season tire, you can sometimes get a ton of grip all at once, and it'll kind of shock you, and then all of a sudden you'll have no grip. These winter tires, they seem to be pretty consistent and have a good amount of grip in all situations. It's almost like they're blending that differential much better than an all-season tire would. At highway speeds, we're feeling pretty good. I also really like the ride quality on these Continental VikingContacts. This Mazda CX-30 has always been a little bit on the stiff side, and even though this is a slightly higher load range tire, a little bit wider, the ride quality from these has been really good at stock pressures. Let's change lanes, see how it handles going over this little ridge of snow. These feel super stable at speed, a lot of confidence. Almost too much confidence sometimes. We did a kind of an ownership roundup, ownership summary of the last year behind the wheel of the CX-30, and there's some things I really like about this. This is kind of a fun luxury hatchback. It's not necessarily a hot hatchback, but it's a little bit of a warm hatchback. It's got fun handling characteristics. It's got ground clearance and the ride height that a lot of SUVs have. It has 8 inches of ground clearance, and since these are slightly plus size tires, we get a little bit more out of this winter setup, which is kind of cool. I've never had any issues bottoming out on this car, but it still handles like a small car, and it's just kind of the right size for an enthusiast driving experience, and I really appreciate that. Really, the only problem we've run into it with is that the back seats just aren't quite big enough for our baby Duna stroller car seat combo, which admittedly is a slightly larger car seat than most. If we got a compact car seat, it would fit great in the back, and my wife and I would be perfectly comfortable in the front seats. But as it is, we're a little bit cramped, and I don't know. We're probably going to get into a Toyota Highlander here soon, and that'll last us for the next 10 years. If we decide to have another kid, we'll be all set with that too. So we're on some wet pavement now. All of these entrance ramps have been salted and taken care of. I get a decent amount of steering feel too with these winter tires. The CX-30 on its own has a good steering rack. I like the feedback that it gives you. And we're off. (181 horsepower). So to answer the question, yes, the Mazda CX-30 drives really well in the snow on a set of proper winter tires. I would highly recommend these Continental VikingContacts. I've been really impressed with them so far. Again, the real winning factor with these tires that I found is that they also handle and drive really well when it's not snowing, when it's dry, which is honestly 95% of the time here in Michigan. And it's nice to have that little bit extra dry grip and wet grip performance out of a winter tire, whereas sometimes you can lose quite a bit of traction in the wet on a winter tire that's compromised for more snow and ice oriented driving. This seems to strike a balance between every discipline really well, and it's just kind of a quiet, nice riding winter tire that I think looks pretty cool. And if you're willing to do a 2 tire setup on your vehicle, it will definitely reward you with good winter performance. As for the Mazda CX-30, I haven't had any issues with this as a front-wheel drive car. We kind of talked about that earlier. I kind of like driving front-wheel drive cars in the winter. Adds a little bit more engagement with the driving experience. As you can see, CX-30 is a champ in the snow. It's almost like there's not even any white stuff on the ground. Pretty impressive stuff from Continental and this Mazda. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll park here and leave it at that. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.